Sure.
Meaning it's
Sure. The more I do it, the better. The more I do it, the better I get. Right? So I don't mind doing it weeks in a row if necessary.
welcome everyone. It looks like we're a small group today. Where is our yeah, that's what, and we've got snacks for everybody. I'm glad to see everyone that is here. Just happy to be here. And I'm going to ask if you have any cell phones or anything that makes noise at this time, please turn it off. We are getting started a few minutes late. I apologize for that. The ladies' room, the men's room is out our door here. You make the first left, and then you make another left, and you'll see the restroom rights as you come in the entrance there. So we do have a new mission, club's mission statement. How many of you knew that? Yay! Okay, it did come in the mail, so the people who have problems with their computer hookups have to be me, one of them, but I do get the mail. So I will tell you a new club mission statement. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Through this mission, each Toastmaster gains a clear understanding of the club's purpose, and the organization as a whole benefits from a shared set of values and goals. Very nice.
The old one better. It was more outside.
As you have noticed, as we come in the entrance here, I put the sign-in sheet for the guests. I put that there so that this way we don't have one person running around with a sign-in sheet in their hand and everybody's looking for it. I put that out there along with name tags. I know it's, I'm sorry. Lynn went through a lot of effort to put those things together, so I'm going to ask everybody to wear them or wear your pin. And with that, I am going to call up Miss Jessica Guthrie to do our flag and pledge. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Tonight's thought is from a great and very famous movie star, and it's very appropriate for Toastmasters. Do or do not. There is no try. That is Yoda from Star Wars. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now it's my pleasure, I think I'm introducing Lynn. Yes? Okay. To introduce our Vice President of Education, standing in as our president this evening, Toastmaster Lynn Ayers.
Welcome to Central Florida Facilitators Toastmasters Club. The name Facilitators was chosen for 3 reasons. We are sponsored by the Central Florida Chapter of the American Society of Training and Development, a premier organization for professional facilitators. A good facilitator needs to be a strong communicator and an effective leader, and Toastmasters International is all about communication and leadership. To facilitate means to make things simple and easy, and we want to make things simple and easy for you tonight. We hope you have a good time and that the evening provides value for you as you work towards achieving your individual goals. Doesn't look like we have any guests tonight. So, there are a couple of announcements that I would like to make before we begin. And one is we have a new banner.
Yay!
Yep, it works.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Second announcement is we have an opening for the position of Vice President of Public Relations, which ends on June the 2013. A short summary of the responsibilities is to publish meeting times and location, maintain club presence in the local newspapers' events calendar, publish the club newsletter, update the club site on Facebook, Meetup, and other social media sites. There are plenty of materials and information to help you do all of these tasks, and the club members are available to assist you. Do I hear a nomination from the floor for Vice President of Public Relations?
Charlie, sounds like you have a nomination.
Patty, I think, great for it.
I would love to, but I haven't even done an icebreaker, and I'm still in charge of timing, so. One day I will gladly do that.
And she's getting trained for sergeant.
No, she's getting trained for Vice President of Education. Okay. Do I hear a motion to table this discussion?
Motion to close nominations.
Pardon me?
Motion to close nominations.
I second.
Okay. All right. If anyone's interested in learning more about this position, see Tony. Our Toastmaster this evening loves movies and was happy to be Toastmaster for this theme. The first movie that she recalls seeing and loving was The Sound of Music, and she's been watching movies of all types ever since. Here this evening to bring back memories with movie quotes for you. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster Susan Moore.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Small meeting, but still is going to be dynamic and fun because that's what Toastmasters do. So I do have, and I did not say that, so I have, so that I can illuminate you all. I have a few changes to our agenda. At the top, at the blank for Supervisor of Elections, Mickey is going to be taking over that. We will not have the educational moment because Tony was unable to get here. And Evaluator 1, there is no need to have an evaluator, or at least that's how it used to be, so I took it out when we didn't have enough time, and so we're going to do a written evaluation for Julian, not a oral evaluation. I win. Yes, Jessica's going to win.
You still gotta come in time.
You still have to come in time. Otherwise, there's no winner. And let's see, I have. Oh, and for Jonathan Dunn's speech, I accidentally messed up with that. He is not doing his competent communicator number 10. He is doing interpretive reading number 4.
Specialty speeches.
Oh, sorry, specialty speeches, which is read out loud. He will be reading a story out loud. And that is what he's supposed to be doing.
That's project number 4.
And that will be
Yeah, it's really special.
specialty speeches number 4. And that should be all the changes to the agenda.
Question?
And yes,
Please.
Patty.
So the reading is still 13 to 15 minutes. Is that correct? The time?
Yeah,
for
the
that?
time is correct.
Thank you. Okay, no problem.
Yeah,
Thank
I did get the time
I
right.
just wanted to be sure.
If you got all the times right.
She highlighted the
Yes.
wrong text to delete.
I
Oh,
won't
are
be
the
inspiring you,
objectives
that's for sure.
correct? It just
Okay.
wasn't, it was just the head.
Unless you're twisted.
Just the header that I got wrong. The objectives are
Oh,
correct.
they are correct. Oh.
Yes. So go ahead and read the objectives and you'll know exactly what Jonathan will be doing. I'm going to start this evening, since I've already started off with the word of the day, I'm going to start off with our grammarian so he can elaborate on my illumination.
As our Toastmaster has described already, the word of the day is illuminate, or if you use the adjective form, it's illuminate. But that's a very archaic form. We're most familiar with the transitive verb illuminate, which is, as you can see on the tables, you have definitions available. To supply or brighten with light, make luminous or shining, to subject to radiation, to make clear, to bring to the fore, to make illustrious or resplendent, or, as our Toastmaster really loves to do, to decorate with gold or silver or brilliant colors, or with often elaborate designs or miniature pictures. I will be listening for the use of that and recording it. You all have, except for Patty, have given your icebreaker, so you get a chance to speak, find a way to fit it in, or you hold a quarter. And otherwise, I'm going to be listening to the interesting uses of the English language, which is how we apparently have started off twice with two different things so far.
Yeah, okay.
And we'll be reporting that during general evaluation.
And here to keep us on track with our time is Patty. Patty, please tell us what you're doing this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Toastmaster. One of the skills Toastmasters practice is expressing a thought with a specific time. As a timer, I am responsible for monitoring the time of each speaker in each meeting segment. I will operate the timing signal indicating to each speaker how long he or she has been speaking. For our prepared speeches to qualify for voting, speakers must not speak less than 30 seconds under their range minimum and not more than 30 seconds over their range maximum. I will turn on the green light. And can every important see that from the front? I will turn on the green light when you reach your minimum. Yellow light when you are 1 minute after your
mid-range.
I will turn the green light at range minimum, your yellow light at mid-range, and the red light at your maximum range. And we'll continue to keep time up until you're done. For table topic speeches, to qualify for speakers must speak at least 1 minute, no more than 2 minutes, 30 seconds, green light 1 minute, yellow 1.5, red 2 minutes. For evaluators to qualify must speak a minimum of 1 minute, 30 seconds, and a maximum of 3 minutes, 30 seconds, green light at 2 minutes, yellow at 2.5, green light at 3 minutes. Madam?
And for our Wizard of Oz, Mr. Charlie Von Moliere.
I'm going to attempt to illuminate this rule by doing my job properly, and that is to keep track of audible clutches such as and double clutches. The repetition of the word while the speaker searches for their next stop. I will also note sentences strung together with bridge words like and or so, and it will sound a buzzer when any of these infractions are heard. The fine for each infraction is 10 cents. Just the members who have not yet done the icebreaker will not be buzzed or fined, but I will keep track of their infractions. If anyone does not want to use this, let me know during your speech. You do not want me to do okay. Why do it then?
You won't need to. I'm reading out of a book. It was awesome. If I debacle that.
If there's a nod, it's
Excuse me.
written.
Okay, and last but certainly not ever least, our Supervisor of Elections, Mickey.
At vote counter, I will pick up your ballots for best speaker, best table topic speaker, and best evaluator. I will tell you the results for award presentations at the end of the meeting. I will also pick up any comments you might have written for the speakers or any meeting participant and deliver the comments to the appropriate person. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Well, you heard in my intro this evening that one of my first
movies was The Sound of Music, and is still to this day one of my favorites. I'm going to give you a quote from that movie, which was probably my second favorite quote in that movie. Fraulein, is it to be at every meal or merely at dinner time that you intend on leading us all through this rare and wonderful new world of indigestion?
Yeah.
I always thought that was very funny. We are going to move on to our prepared speeches. Competent Toastmaster Julian Cotto has been a member of Central Florida Facilitators for almost 2 years. He is working towards the Advanced Communicator Bronze Award. Tonight he will be presenting a project from the Advanced Leadership Series, Resolving Conflict. The purpose of this project is to present a PowerPoint leadership presentation on conflict resolution. He will be developing this presentation around this topic particularly: what is conflict, why it happens, and what a leader does to resolve it. Please help me welcome competent Toastmaster Julian Cotto as he leads us through the journey of his story.
Conflict. This evening, you will be illuminated as to what is conflict, what do you do to resolve it, and why you need to manage it. As a leader, you need to resolve conflict. Conflict is struggle, battle, differences of opinion. It's unresolved, real, or perceived differences. Conflict isn't a bad thing. Conflict is good as long as it's managed. MMA is an example of interpersonal conflict. Football is an example of group conflict. Both of these activities will brings out the best in the participants. And the reason it happens is because the conflict is managed. There are rules, boundaries, and limitations that all the participants understand. So as they develop their skill and exercise their skill in this game of conflict, they are able to bring out the best in each participant and achieve excellence. When conflict is not a good thing is when conflict goes bad. When there are no rules, boundaries, or limitations, there is riot, mayhem, there is a lot of emotion and strife, and what happens is that people get hurt. So conflict is good in bringing out the best in each one of us, as long as it's managed and as long as everybody knows the rules and participates accordingly. Now, conflict happens for 5 reasons. Contentious personality. This is a picture of Mickey D, Lynn, and Tony at one of our executive committee meetings trying to resolve the conflict over the ratifying of the minutes of the meeting. After a glass of wine, they all mellow out, but it takes a few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, as young as they are, we are never going to understand each other. So there's always misunderstandings that lead to conflict. Frustration. When conflict is unresolved, it leads to anger. Unresolved anger leads to frustration. You want to wring their neck. Any of you have ever been through a divorce, you know what I'm talking about. Communication. This is absolutely one of the most common ways that conflict occurs. Because you hear something and it's what you think you hear. You say something and it's actually what you think you said. And then if you take all the permutations of that, you have 16 combinations as to how communication can go bad. So 90% of conflict happens for one of three reasons. Incongruent beliefs. Now, beliefs is what people hold to be true. For instance, 500 years ago, we held the belief that the world was flat. Now, there were some people that believed the world was round. So there was a little conflict, and the ones that believed the world was round ultimately prevailed. So conflict isn't a bad thing. As Karl Marx said, there's synthesis, antithesis, and when everything comes together, synergy. Incongruent values. Now, values isn't what you believe, it's what you think is important. And it's not so much that we have different values, it's that we believe that what is the most important value. For instance, in Congress, a lot of our elected politicians probably have the same values. They just believe that they just differ on the most important values, so you have conflict and gridlock. So it's about what is most important, not necessarily that you have great divergence of values. And thirdly, games people play. People play games whether they do it consciously or subconsciously, and this either creates some level of conflict or it adds to the conflict. Now, conflict is largely a matter of perspective. It's how each one of us views our own little world in light of somebody else. And so we all have our own picture of the world, and we need to come together and come up to the same picture. So it's largely a matter of perspective. The bottom line is that any leader must resolve conflict. And there are various strategies to resolve conflict, and some of them are better than others. And we will explore each of these strategies. So how does a leader resolve conflict? The first thing is it starts with you. You are the leader, the buck stops with you. However, it's really not about you, it's about a group of people that you're trying to lead. One of the most important things is you have to stay in the moment and lead your group to be in the moment. What this means is that you're not recounting, accessing the historical data banks and bringing in all the old garbage into the conversation or projecting all that stuff into the future. You're dealing with the moment, and the moment is all that you can influence. Don't get emotional, because it's not about you. You have to be the adult in the room. That way, your energy starts impacting the people that you're trying to bring resolution to. And don't take it personal. You need to have calm, assertive energy so that that energy can impact the group and you can set the example of how the group is supposed to function. Now, the mindset that I have when I deal in these situations is that I'm a psychiatrist in a mental institution. So when people yell at me and they scream obscenities at me and they tell me how much they hate me, I don't take it personal. I don't get emotional. Why? Because they're crazy. Now, in resolving conflict, one of the most important things is first seek to understand and then to be understood. The American Indian proverb, "Great Spirit, help me to never judge another until I have walked in their moccasins for a mile," is very applicable to conflict resolution, because we don't want to get into a judgmental frame of mind, either as a leader or as a participant in the conflict resolution exercise. There's three main ways to deal with conflict. As a leader, you can ignore it. This is going to lead to chaos and drama. Many times, this is what leaders do. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to take on that responsibility, which ultimately, as a leader, you have. You can suppress it. Well, you can be the dictator and say, you know what, it's my way or the highway. Take it or leave it. You know, this can lead to anger and frustration amongst your team members. So it's not the best, it is a strategy, that both of them are a strategy, just not the best strategy. The best strategy is to be a leader and resolve the conflict by developing understanding and these set rules and boundaries. It's so important to, at the beginning, set rules and boundaries so everybody knows what's expected before you even start the conversation. So, going into the conflict resolution strategy, a leader can take on a competitive strategy, which is very much like the suppression strategy, where the leader uses the power, their rank, their expertise in resolving the conflict. Now, some circumstances, you have to do that. If you are in the middle of a battle where people are shooting at you, you don't have time to get together and have kumbaya moment and come up with a resolution. You just bark out the order and they either do it or they get shot. One of the two, right? Then there's the collaborative. Now, competitive is high in the spectrum of assertive, control, and cooperation. Competitive is high assertive or controlling and high and low cooperation. Collaborative, it's on the other side, it's still high on the assertiveness scale, but high in the cooperation scale. As a leader, you remain calm assertive, you encourage cooperation, and you encourage inclusivity in the discussion from all members so that they all feel like they are contributing to the resolution. You can take a compromising strategy where everybody gives up something. This is somewhat less controlling and more cooperative. So everybody in the group, basically, you come in and say, okay, everybody's going to give up something, so figure out what you're going to give up, and that's how we're going to resolve the situation. You can be accommodating. You just give up. You roll over dead. You say, the heck with it, I'll just do it myself. And then you wonder why you're buried and you can never even see the light of day. This is a wimpy strategy. This is low in assertiveness and low in cooperation. It's at the other end of the spectrum. You can just avoid the whole thing, just like ignoring it. Delegate the decision to a subordinate. Wimp out on your responsibility. Accept default decisions. Hey, it's not me that says it, it's the employee manual that says it. So you don't have to make a decision, and you don't have to worry about hurting people's feelings. You don't want to do that as a leader, do you? So on the matrix of assertiveness versus cooperation, you have kind of a picture as to what the 5 different strategies of conflict resolution are. You see high control, low cooperation, and then the more effective ones are probably the collaboration and the compromise. Those are probably the 2 strategies that you should try to implement, unless, you know, there's just no time to do that. If you're a visual, what you ought to look at is how the different animals exemplify that different strategy. To facilitate conflict, stay away from blame and accusation. Be nurturing. Be calm and assertive, but you have to be nurturing. Address the people in a nurturing way. Set up ground rules of conduct. You have to be the adult in the room, and you need to encourage people to be adults, to calm down, stay in the moment, and encourage everyone to be courteous and nice, even though they don't agree. Encourage parties to speak and listen to each other as adults. Identify areas of disagreement and agreement. This way, you may find that you agree on a lot of things, and there's just a few aspects of the situation that you disagree in, and then you could focus on those. And then you brainstorm and reach for solutions. Then it would be easier for the group to reach a consensus after they've gone through the process, because they all feel like they have skin in the game. So I have a word of caution about conflict resolution. Don't allow your emotions or the emotions of the group to consume the discussion. Keep respectful, sympathetic, and caring attitude towards each other, even though you don't agree. Stay away from blame and accusation. As a leader, it is your job to resolve conflict. Manage conflict gets the best out of people, and it leads people to achieve excellence and your team to win. Madam Toastmaster.
Julian, for that speech, and Patty, if we could have 1 minute on the clock for everyone to. Very much. Well, I think everyone can remember this quote that is very famous from a very famous movie. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Every now and again I think that. Also from The Godfather, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Who can forget Toto? I've got a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Right on the back of Jessica's Star Wars, we will have May the Force be with you. And of course, E.T. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and enjoy a suspenseful reading from Jonathan Dunn as he entertains us with project number 4, Read Out Loud.
My fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, allow me to please illuminate your evening tonight as I perform a reading from Silence of the Lambs, written by Thomas Harris. but he had seen Precious jump. He knew her leg was all right. And at once he knew something more. Catherine Baker Martin wouldn't hurt the dog any more than he would. Oh, sweet relief. Because of their shared feeling, he could shoot her in the goddamn legs. And when she clutched her legs, he'd blow her head off. No caution necessary. He turned on the lights, all the damn lights in the basement, and got the floodlight from the storeroom. He had control of himself. He was reasoning well. On his way through the workroom, he remembered to run a little water in the sink so nothing would clot in the traps. As he hurried past the stairs, ready to go, carrying the floodlight, the doorbell rang. The doorbell grating, rasping. He had to stop and think about what it was. He hadn't heard it in years. He hadn't even known whether it worked. Mounted in the stairway so it could be heard, upstairs and down, clanging, now a black metal tip covered with dust. As he looked at it, it rang again, ringing, dust flying off of it. Someone was at the front pushing the old button marked Superintendent. They would go away. He rigged the floodlight. They didn't go away. Down in the well, it said something he paid no attention to. The bell was clanging, grating. They were just leaning on the button. Better go upstairs, peek out the front. The long-barreled python wouldn't go in the pocket of his robe. He put it on the workroom counter. He was halfway up the stairs when the bell stopped ringing. He waited a few moments halfway up. Silence. He decided to look away. As he went through the kitchen, a heavy knock on the back door made him jump. In the pantry near the back door was a pump shotgun. He knew it was loaded. With the door closed to the basement stairs, nobody could hear it, yelling down there, even at the top of its voice. He was sure of that. Bang! Again, he opened the door a crack on the chain. I tried the front, but nobody came, Clarice Starling said. I'm looking for Mrs. Littman's family. Could you help me? They don't live here, Mr. Gum said, and closed the door. He had started for the stairs again when the banging resumed, louder. This time, he opened the door on the chain. The young woman held an ID close to the crack. It said Federal Bureau of Investigation. Excuse me, but I need to talk to you. I want to find the family of Mrs. Littman. I know she lived here. I need your help, please. Mrs. Littman has been dead for ages. She had no relatives that I know of. What about a lawyer or an accountant? Somebody who'd have her business records. Did you know Mrs. Littman? Just briefly. What's the problem? I'm investigating the death of Frederica Bimmel. Who are you, please? Jack Gordon. Did you know Frederica Bimmel when she worked for Mrs. Littman? No. Was she a great fat person? I may have seen her. I'm not sure, and I'm not trying to be rude. I was sleeping. Mrs. Littman had a lawyer. I may have his card somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. Do you mind stepping inside? I'm freezing, and my cat will streak through here in a second. She'll be outside like a shot before I can catch her. He went to a roll-top desk in the far corner of the kitchen. He raised the top and looked in a couple of pigeonholes. Starling stepped inside the door and took her notebook out of her purse. That's horrible business, he said, rummaging the desk. I shiver every time I think about it. Are they close to catching somebody? Do you think? Not yet. We're working. Mr. Gordon, did you take over this place after Mrs. Littman died? Yes. Gum bent over the desk, his back to Starling. He opened a drawer and he poked around in it. Were there any records left here, business records? No, nothing at all. Does the FBI have any ideas? The police here don't seem to know first thing. Do they have a description? Fingerprints? Out of the folds in the back of Mr. Gum's robe crawled a death head's moth. It stopped in the center of his back, about where his heart would be. It adjusted its wings. Starling dropped her notebook into the bag. Mr. Gum, thank God my gun's open. Talk out of here, go to a phone. No, he knows. I'm FBI. If I let him out of my sight, he'll kill her. To her kidneys, they bind him, they fall on him. His phone, I don't see it. I'm not in here. I ask for his phone. I get the connection, then I throw it down on him. I make him lie face down. I wait for the cops. That's it. He's turning around. Here's the number, he said. He had a business card. Take it. No. Good, thank you, Mr. Gordon. Do you have a telephone I could use? As he put the card on the table, the moth flew. It came from behind him, past his head, and lit between them on a cabinet above the sink. He looked at it. When she didn't look at it, when her eyes never left his face, he knew. Their eyes met, and they knew each other. Mr. Gum tilted his head a little to the side. He smiled. I have a cordless phone in the pantry. I'll get it for you. No, do it. She went for the gun. One smooth move she'd done 4,000 times, and it was right there where it was supposed to be. A good two-handed hold. Her whirled the front sight at the center of his chest. Freeze! He pursed his lips. Now slowly put up your hands. Move him outside. Keep the table between us. Walk him to the front. Face down. Middle of the street. Hold up the badge. Mr. Gum, you are under arrest. I want you to walk slowly outside for me. Instead, he walked out of the room. If he had reached for his pocket, reached behind him, if she'd seen a weapon, she could have fired. He just walked out of the room. She heard him down the basement stairs fast. She around the table to the door at the top of the stairwell. He was gone. The stairwell brightly lit and empty. Trap. Be a sitting duck on the stairs. From the basement, then a thin paper cut of a scream. She didn't like the stairs, Clarice Starling and the quick where you give it or you don't. Catherine Martin screamed again. He's killing her. And Starling went down them anyway. One hand on the banister, gun arm, out the gun, just under the line of vision. Floor below, bounding over the gun sight. Gun arm swinging with her head as she tried to cover. The two facing doors open at the bottom of the staircase. Lights blazing in the basement. She couldn't go through one door without turning her back on the other. Do it quick, then to the left toward the screen. Into the sand-floored oubliette room, clearing the doorframe fast. Eyes wider than they had ever been. Only place to hide was behind the well, she sliding sideways around the wall, both hands on the gun, arms out straight, a little pressure on the trigger, on around the well and nobody behind it. A small scream rising from the well with thin smoke. Yipping now a dog, she approached the well. Eyes on the door, got to the rim, looked over the edge, saw the girl, looked up again, down again. Said what she was trained to say, calm the hostage. FBI, you're safe. Safe shit, he's got a gun. Get me out. Catherine, you'll be all right. Shut up. Do you know where he is? Get me out. I don't give a shit where he is. Get me out. I'll get you out. Be quiet. Help me. Be quiet so I can hear. Try and shut that dog up. Braced behind the wall, covering the door, her heart pounded and her breath blew dust off the stone. She could not leave Catherine Martin to get help when she didn't know where Gum was. She moved up to the door and took cover behind the frame. She could see across the foot of the stairs and into the part of the workroom beyond. Either she found Gum, or she'd made sure he'd fled, or she took Catherine out with her. Those were the only choices. A quick look over her shoulder, around the oubliette room. Catherine, is there a ladder? I don't know. I woke up down here. He let the bucket down on strings. Bolted to a wall beam was a small hand winch. There was no line on the drum of the winch. Catherine, Catherine, I have to find something to get you out with. Can you walk? Yes, don't leave me. I have to leave the room for just a minute. You bitch, don't you leave me down here. My mother will tear your shit brains out. Catherine, shut up. I need you to be quiet so I can hear. Save yourself, be quiet. Do you understand? Then, louder. The other officers will be here any minute. Now shut up. We will not leave you down there. He had to have a rope. Where was it? Go see. Starling moved across the stairwell in one rush to the door of the workroom. Door is the worst place. Fast, back, forth, long, near the wall, until she had seen all the room, familiar shapes swimming in the glass tanks. She too alerted to be startled. Quickly, through the room, past the tanks, the sinks, past the cage, a few big moths flying. She ignored them. The great armoire stood open and empty, the far door open onto darkness. The basement, beyond, no rope, any ladder, anywhere, no lights, beyond the studio. She closed the door into the dark part of the basement, pushed a chair under the knob, and pushed a sewing machine against it. If she could be positive he wasn't in this part of the basement, she'd risk going upstairs for a moment to find a phone. Back down the corridor one she'd passed, get on the side, opposite the hinges, all the way up, one move. The door slammed back, nobody behind it. An old bathroom, in it, rope, hooks, a sling. Get Catherine, go for the phone. In the bottom of the well, Catherine wouldn't get shot by accident. But if Starling got killed, Catherine was dead too. Take Catherine with her to the phone. Starling didn't want to stay in the bathroom long. He could come to the door and hose her. She looked both ways and ducked inside for the rope. There was a big bathtub in the room. The tub was almost filled with hard red plaster. A hand and wrist stuck up from the plaster. The hand turned dark, shriveled, the fingernails painted pink. On the wrist was a dainty watch. Starling was seeing everything at once. The rope, the tub, the hand, the watch. The tiny insects crawl out of the second hand was the last thing she saw before the lights went out. Her heart knocked hard enough to shake her chest and her arms. Dizzy dark, need to touch something. The edge of a tub, the bathroom. Get out of the bathroom. If he can find the door, he can hose this room. Nothing to get behind. Dear Jesus, go out. Go out, down low, out in the hall, every light out, every light out. He must have done it at the fuse box, pulled the lever. Where would it be? Where would the fuse box be? Near the stairs, lots of times near the stairs. If it is, he'll come from that way. But he's between me and Catherine. Catherine Martin was keening again. Wait here? Wait forever? He's gone. There's no backup coming. Yes, he can. I'm going to be missed. Tonight, the stairs are in the direction of the screams. Solve it now. She moved quietly, her shoulder barely brushing the wall, brushing it too lightly for sound. One hand extended ahead, the gun at waist level, close to her in the confined hallway. Out into the workroom now. Feel the spaces opening up. Open room, in the crouch, in the open room, arms out, both hands, on the gun. You know exactly where the gun is. It's just below eye level. Stop, listen. Head and body, arms turning together like a turret. Stop, listen. In the absolute black, the hiss of steam pipes, trickle of water, heavy in her nostrils, the smell of the goat. Catherine, keening. Against the wall stood Mr. Gunn with his goggles on. There was no danger. She'd bump into him. There was an equipment table between them. He played his infrared light up and down her. She was too slender to be of great utility to him. He remembered her hair through from the kitchen, and it was glorious. and crying. Starling had to wait. She couldn't answer Catherine. She couldn't say anything or move. And then the sound, a gurgle, a rattle, the whistling had stopped. Starling knew that sound too. She'd heard it once before at the hospital when her father died. Madam Toastmaster.
Wow, that was a good one. May we have 1 minute on the clock, please? Sudden impact, go ahead and make my day. Casablanca, here's looking at you, kid. And since we're talking about Casablanca, Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Of course, no one can forget that Jerry Maguire, show me the money! We all like to have that. Of course, and Harry and Sally, when Harry met Sally, there's a very famous scene, of course, which ends with, oh, that's what she's having. And one that we said earlier today, I don't know if everyone was here, if you build it, he will come. We were talking about the members. If we build it, they will come. We've got a few of you here. It's still fun. Oh yes, and the very interesting intellectual and spiritual sixth sense. I see. That's a very weird one out of Little Boy. Apollo 13, Houston, we have a problem. Another Jerry Maguire. You had me at hello. Godfather, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. I just watched this movie again not too long ago, A League of Their Own. There's no crying in baseball! 1968 movie, Planet of the Apes. Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape. I think they reprised that as well. Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. A chick flick, Dirty Dancing. Nobody puts baby in the corner. Oh, and Wizard of Oz again. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too. Some of these old ones, some of the new ones. I like all of them. Now we're going to move on to getting our timers report. Ms. Patty, can you tell us about our times tonight?
Julian Koto, resolving conflict, 13 to 15 minutes. The actual time was 15 minutes. Right on the button. Jonathan Dunn, reading from Silence of the Lambs. 30 to 15 minutes. Actual time was 15:42 seconds.
Almost, very close.
Almost.
I guess we don't have to bring our vote counter around except for the.
I was gonna suggest something. When you read, I know you have to keep looking up, and I think sometimes you maybe lost this place, or I think that because this was not. I kept seeing you trying to see when it would flick. I thought maybe, you know how you said not to stop it. Maybe if I did that and you could hear it, then I just thought that reading from the book and trying to stay and look up and then go back where you were.
Right.
Those were just precious
They
seconds.
let you in Toastmasters. They let you if you have a hearing impairment.
Okay.
To have a signal, but
Okay.
generally they.
You timed it before doing it, right?
What's that?
You timed it before doing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where I lost the time.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought that would
That's a good
help
idea,
too.
too.
Okay.
Awesome. And now is our next section that I was afraid we weren't going to have time for, but now we do have a bit of time, and that is our table topics. Please help me welcome our table topics master, Lynn Ayers.
Fellow Toastmasters, the table topics portion of our meeting challenges us to develop our impromptu communication skills, to effectively think on our feet by answering unrehearsed questions. Tonight our theme is movies. Please remember to use the word of the day, illuminate, in your 1 to 2 minute response. Our first question is, what classic music from back in the day that maybe we all missed or just haven't seen in a while would you recommend that we check out again? Charlie.
Music or movie?
What classic movie from back in the day that maybe we all missed or just haven't seen in a while would you recommend that we check out again?
Madam Table Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, and zero guests. To me, it was very illuminating to watch the Mickey Mouse Club and Annette Michelle because I was crazy in love with her when I was about 16 years old. We used to run from school to watch TV to get home on time to watch her. That was a great movie to me to watch all the time. And the other one was the old Tarzan movies. We always liked the old Tarzan movies. And I don't know that I was really in love with this as much as I had to watch it, so it became kind of interesting after a while because my grandmother loved Lawrence Welk, and Lawrence Welk had to be watched every Sunday.
Sounds cool.
And basically, those are the three most illuminating movies that I can recall. Madam Table Topic.
Thank you, Charlie. How do you feel about all the movie remakes? Is there a movie, book, or TV show from your childhood that you would like to see either remade or adapted to the big screen? Pat.
To think of a movie that has not been remade, this is a dead giveaway. How about Shirley Temple? Does anybody remember Shirley Temple? I think that would be a fun movie to see, right? You know, the good ship on the pond and all that kind of good stuff. When I was a little girl, they used to tell me I looked like Shirley Temple because my mom used to do my hair like that. And it was cute when I was little, but when I was 12, she still didn't. It was weird. Other movies that I could think of that could be remade, I would love to see Wuthering Heights. That movie just makes me cry every single time. I would love to see that remade with some absolutely gorgeous movie star. Let's see who could play the part. I don't know. about Hugh Jackman? Who could be the girl? I need help, guys. Does anybody, did you ever see Wuthering Heights? I didn't think so. I think I'm gonna move it up a little bit. Another movie that could be remade, that would be a classic. I don't even want it remade though. My very favorite movie of all time is First Night. Tell me you guys saw First Night. No, I see Friends. First Night with Hugh Brent. Yeah, right? No, Sean Connery and Richard Gere. And Sean Connery is the king and Richard Gere is Sir Lancelot. He could be my knight in shining armor anytime. Thank you.
What movie sequel, past or present, lived up to your expectations and was as good, if not better, than the original? What movie sequel, past or present, lived up to your expectations and was as good, if not better, than the original? Stephen.
Madam Toastmaster, the most interesting sequel that I have seen in the movies was when the sequel to Tron came out last year or the year before. And what I found most interesting is because you had the huge gap between the first one and the second one. You know that the second one was never intended when they put the first movie together. And yet they went to the effort finding the original actors to pull them in and to shift it to a second generation, finding a way to tie the stories together and yet still be able to make it somewhat believable, as much as it could be, that all the silly technology that we saw back in the early 80s could somehow transition to what we see 30 years later. But it was very entertaining to watch, having made a point of going to watch the first one before going to see the new one, and especially for the kids, getting a chance to see, yeah, this is what we saw when we were your age. Now you get to see this now. The story was significantly different, the style was different, but they managed to keep a lot of the theme going through. And they also had a lot of backstory to fill in that they didn't necessarily need to, but gave it a lot of extra perception and depth that made the newer movie, in many ways, a lot more inclusive than I would say from the original. Now, the original is still a whole lot of fun. It's a lot more of the action and just a whole lot of fun with lights running around everywhere and how they managed to make everything look so neat. But in the newer one, whereas they still had all neat little special effects going on, they were adding more extra story on top of it. That's what I found most interesting between those two. 30 years apart, different people writing the stories, and yet still pulling in the actors to do it again. Makes you wonder what might come up next. Independence Day 2 is supposed to be in the works. Ghostbusters 3 has been discussed at times, but not yet happened. What will be the next big gap between 1 and 2?
Thank you, Stephen. Tell us about your favorite movie and or recap of your favorite movie scene. Susan.
Several of them. I could start with Sound of Music, of course, because as I said, that was one of my favorites. And I think my favorite scene in that movie, and I don't have the quote just right, is there is the big ball going on. They're having the big party, and the captain walks in. He has the big Austrian flag up there, and the bad guy is standing there, and he says, "I see that you're burying your head in the sand and still holding on to these old traditions." And the captain comes back with, "You know, if the Nazis are coming, then I have no doubt you'll be the entire trumpet section." And he says, "You flatter me." He goes, "Sorry, I meant to accuse you." I thought that was really cool. Because he was slapping that guy down. Don't bring these Nazis to my place. And of course, Independence Day, which was already mentioned. I love that movie, can't wait for 2. But I loved the speech, the monodrama that the president gave at towards the very end, saying that this would be the world's Independence Day, not just an American holiday. Those were really good ones. And I'm sure I could come up with many more.
Thank you, Susan. Tell us about the worst movie you have ever seen, Patty.
I'm sorry?
Tell us about the worst movie you have ever seen.
The worst movie I've ever seen. The worst movie I've ever seen, I was on a plane from Honolulu to New York. And it was Groundhog Day. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the actors, Andy McDowell, and her co-star. He's very funny, I can't think of his name. But Bill Murray, thank you very much, I appreciate it. I couldn't take it anymore, sitting in the seat confined with dried peanuts and watching the same thing over and over and over. And I know there's a point to the movie, but I think the environment, being on the plane and watching the same thing over and over and over, and I have another one that I didn't like, Wild Wild West. What were they thinking? What were they thinking? I mean, from Independence Day, he's great. I love Will Smith. I think he's fantastic. I think he's great. He's funny. He has talent. What was Wild Wild West? I mean, those are the 2 worst movies I've ever seen. Madam Topic Master, thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
If you could meet any movie star, who would it be, Mickey?
Don't expect me to illuminate you tonight. No useful information for me tonight. I like to watch movies, but I cannot remember any movie titles. I cannot remember any actors. I cannot remember any singers. I cannot remember anything. There are movies that I like, movies that I don't like. There are actors that I like, but I don't have a favorite one. So I don't really want to meet anyone in person. I'm fine with seeing them on the screen. If they do a good job in the movie, I like them. If not, I just move on to reading a book or whatever, taking the dogs for a walk. Same with the books. I love to read. I don't remember what I read last week. Next week I'm not going to remember what I'm reading these days. So it is no great love for any actor or any movies or any singer. I don't go to concerts. I don't want to spend the money on tickets because some of them are very expensive. I don't really go to movies when they play them first time or the first weekend. I have to confess, my husband downloads movies from the internet, so we don't have to pay any money for them. No preferences here. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Madam Timekeeper, can we have a report for each speaker, please?
Everyone, Charlie spoke about his favorite classic to watch, Mickey Mouse Special and Tarzan, 1 minute and 6 seconds. Pat talked about a remake of a movie. I think it was Shirley Temple, and that was 1 minute and 30 seconds. Stephen talked about past and present sequel, Better Than the First, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. What movie was that?
I was thinking of Tron.
Tron, yes. Thank you. I I'm trying to write as fast as I can and keep time, so I'm learning. I'm doing this next week again, so sorry I have to put you all through this. Susan, recap of a favorite movie scene, 1 minute and 15 seconds. Myself, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Worst movie, Wild Wild West and Groundhog, 1 minute and 17 seconds. Thank you for timing me. Mickey, what movie star would you be? Doesn't have a preference, but that was 1 minute and 15 seconds. Thank you.
So everyone qualifies.
Everyone qualifies, yes.
I now return control over to the Toastmaster, Susan.
I've got everyone go ahead and vote, and Mickey will be around in a few minutes. I've got a couple other topics we can go to, but you know what? We've got plenty of time. We're right on time, so let's go ahead and get our general evaluator. You know, general evaluator, I forgot to get an intro from you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have a special guest, our Sergeant at Arms, to be our general evaluator. Please help me welcome Pat Stockler.
Thank you, Susan, for that illuminating introduction. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, I will be evaluating the meeting as a whole, as well as conducting the evaluation portion of the meeting. Our oral evaluations are designed to help speakers recognize their strengths and learn what steps they can take to improve their speaking skills. The evaluation comments are from the point of view of the assigned evaluator and the evaluator only, and we do not speak to the club as a whole. So tonight, our first and only evaluator, evaluating Julian Koto is.
Jonathan Dunn.
I thought Jonathan didn't get evaluated.
Other way around.
I have it backwards.
You can call him Julian.
I can
Julian Dunn.
Okay. So our first evaluator will be evaluating Jonathan Dunn. Our evaluator this evening loves the movies. Her favorite movies include The Princess Bride, Shawshank Redemption, Gone with the Wind, and Shakespeare in Love. These are just a few. She has many more, but this is good for starters. Evaluating Jonathan tonight, please help me welcome our almost DTM, Jessica Jeffrey.
I have a confession. I have not read nor seen the movie Silence of the Lambs, which may actually be a good thing in this case. Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, and no guests, and especially Jonathan Dunn. Not being familiar with the story and not influenced by the movie visuals actually allowed me to have Jonathan explain the story to me through his interpretive reading. There were some particularly positive aspects of this. First of all, Jonathan's voices of the characters. Not only did he provide different voices for the characters, but he even changed it up between when they were thinking versus when they were speaking out loud. And as a listener and not being familiar with the story, that really helped me to follow it. So I thought that was particularly well done. You had very good vocal variety, but particularly when you dropped your voice. You tend to have a very booming style, very booming voice, which is very great for commanding attention, which makes it even more effective when you bring it back. And when he said, I think it was silence, whisper. I know I went, whoa, what's going on over here? And same thing when he said stop and listen, he did the same thing, he brought it down, and it really grabs you. So it's a very effective use of your voice, so keep doing that. And you had some good inflection right at the beginning, particularly you were talking about hadn't even known it, and there were some inflections in your voice that were just particularly effective for me. Now, a few areas to focus on for improvement. I finally figured it out. I've heard so many of your speeches, and there is something that I couldn't quite put my finger on that was distracting to me, and it came out in your reading. And it's that you have a halting style where you group words and you put a pause between them. So you'd said, get the floodlight from the storeroom, as opposed to get the floodlight from the storeroom, or nothing with something in the something. There was the sections are so defined that you lose it. Now, sometimes that's effective, especially if there's a part in the book when you're reading where there's a comma, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. You do group them as such. But sometimes it should flow, and I think it's the halting that is distracting to me. So that's something to listen for yourself. You might listen, record yourself, and be able to hopefully catch on to that, because it was very apparent to me throughout this reading. So I think that's one area to focus on. And then the second idea I had for improvement was really to leverage pauses a little bit more. And I know there was a time issue, so sometimes that rushes us, especially at the end. But there was one particular part where I think he was answering the door, or he was about to answer the door, and you were talking and then said they didn't go away. Instead of saying, talking, they didn't go away. So pausing, letting us hear what's going on and pausing, and then doing the they didn't go away. And then especially at the end, you had said she had heard it before when her father died, Madam Toastmaster. And that might have been, again, to rush throughout. But so much more effective, you said she had heard it before when her father died. And then turned it over to the Toastmaster. Overall, it was very effective. It was, the best part was really actually how the whole thing was cut, because I know you had to pick a certain segment, but you could definitely see where it was going. It was driving, and it built to a climax all the way through. And you did it so well that I'm still too scared to see the movie. General Evaluator.
Moving right along, can I ask for the title, please?
Evaluation by Jessica Guthrie was 3 minutes and 22 seconds. She qualified.
Okay, now I'm going to move along to our functionaries. I'm going to answer the R counter, which is Charlie Bonley.
I got a total of 2 double clutches for Lynn. Susan Morgan was perfect. Julian Cotto, 1 Jonathan Dunn was perfect. Pat, 1 Stephen Morgan was perfect. Patty, I know it doesn't count for you, but you were 3 and 1 double clutch. Mickey, you had 3 Jessica was perfect. And I was perfect too. That's it.
Now, our illuminating grammarian, if you could give us your report, please, Stephen.
Madam General Evaluator, Susan, Charlie, Julian, Jonathan, Charlie, Mickey, and Pat used the word of the day. Lynn said the word of the day.
I wrote it down.
In the uses of the English language, one sentence just went, I did not say that so, and ended right there. And I was like, there's something with that. If I debacle that, Jonathan, that was a very neat phrase. The problem I have with it is debacle's a noun. I think you were thinking defile is my guess, but I love the choice of words nonetheless. Julian, in his presentation, when conflict is not a good thing is when conflict goes bad. It sounded like a truism. It's not good, therefore it's bad. You mayhem and strife were great words. There was some people. Were some people. The synthesis, antithesis, those 2 words went together beautifully, but then there was this long pause and break before coming up with synergy for the third triad. It creates some level of conflict, or it adds to the conflict, which I think you were referring to playing the games. For some reason that came across confusing to me, whether it was supposed to be the conflict or it was creating the conflict. It sounded like I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be a good or a bad thing. Be the adult in the room, energy impacts. I had visions of getting hit by big bolts of light. You roll over dead, then you wonder why you were buried. You ran that analogy on for a while. That's quite interesting. I also heard the crazy in love, first and only, welcome guests and no guests, and the booming voice. Those are the phrases I noted in that general evaluator.
Now, as your general evaluator for this evening, I must say that we did start a little late. Unfortunate, Arms was busy chatting. But Lynn did a fabulous job of stepping up as president, since our president is not here today. And one thing that I'd really like to stress about this group that I think is awesome is that everybody chips in, everybody helps, and everybody is anxious to help everyone, which is really a great thing. I was even a few minutes late today as far as setting up the room, so it was pretty much already done. All I had to do was come in and finish what everybody else started, so I want to say thank you. And that is something that is done in this club all the time, so I think that's really something to be proud of. I think that our speakers were very well prepared, and they did an excellent job, both of them, as different as they were. Our table topics lady, she did a great job. She didn't chat too much, and she got time to ask a whole bunch of questions that were really very interesting. No chatter, which is something that I love to do when I do table topics, but I think that next time I'm going to be the Toastmaster, so I can do the chatting, and the table topics person can just good job, Lynn. I also that there was no cell phones and no buzzing of cell phones, which is also another good thing that went on. The energy was great. Susan did a great job. The topic was a lot of fun. Still can't think of how they would remake Shirley Temple, but it would be fun, maybe 3D. As far as any improvements go, I think the Sergeant-at-Arms needs to get on time. And other than that, I think that this was a great meeting. We did a great job with a small group.
Are we going to vote most improved?
Yes, we will.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
I was afraid we forgot.
I would have. So would everyone please vote for their favorite most improved person?
That's back to the president. If you don't have anything else to do. No point in wasting time.
And at this time, I'm going to invite up our fill-in president, Lynn Beers.
Alrighty, our agenda for next week. Kat, do you have our agenda? For Toastmaster, I have Pat giving her 10th speech, and her CC manual will be Mickey. Tony will be speaking. Charlie, I have you down as a speaker. Stephen Morgan, Table Topics Master. I will be the general evaluator. Susan, evaluator. Jonathan, evaluator. Julian, evaluator. Patty will be timer. Jessica, counter. Gail Hill-Smith, grammarian. And I just need vote counter and educational moment. But I believe everyone in here has a role, so I'll just send out an email. And did everyone get a chance to look at the May and June? Would you like to before you leave tonight? I have one announcement. First of all, I would like to say this was a very illuminating meeting. Thank you so much. Julian, for pointing out all the anger inside of me. I just realized it. I really appreciate that. You know, I'm gonna work on that. Our club has been invited to a beach party April the 27th, hosted by Carl Ryder and the Concourse Toastmasters Club and Winter Park Toastmasters Club. And Tony will forward the invitation. They host another party in October and have invited us to be one of the sponsors with them. Were y'all aware of that?
Yeah, Tony brought it up last week.
Pardon me?
Tony brought it up last week.
Yeah, I think she did mention.
Is that a Friday or Saturday?
27th is Saturday.
It's a Sunday, April the 27th.
Is that like in the afternoon?
No, it's a Saturday.
April 27th is Saturday.
Is it Saturday? Okay, it's a Saturday, yes. And I'll be honest with you, we'll have to send out the invitation. We got an email, and I'm not sure about the dates. I did not look before, I should have checked that before.
It's Saturday, the 27th.
But I'm not sure about the time, I think is what I meant to say. But we'll forward the invitation. Do we have any other announcements? Jessica?
This is actually more of a question, only because we have a timeline, probably more for the officers. I kind of just want to get the feeling of the group. But I received an email today from District 84 saying the deadline for the program coming up is in 3 days. And I would really like the club to put in a congratulations for our club for celebrating our 10-year anniversary, President's Distinguished Every Time. And I'm sorry, I was literally sitting in the car when I got the email, so I don't know the prices or anything, but I was thinking something reasonable might be a half-page ad, and wanted to get the approval of the group and our treasurer to go ahead and submit for that. I kind of see nods. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do they need the artwork in 3 days too?
Yeah.
Who's going to do the artwork?
The person putting it together, which is probably does.
Okay.
Unless someone wants to take that on.
I have a question.
Okay, Charlie?
Since we have another flag, would it be appropriate to get like a pall, so we would have the two flags, you know, one with the ribbons and the other one, obviously the new one up front?
Well, I think we're gonna transfer these ribbons onto our new flag.
Well, I
I mean,
think
you
we
better, aren't we?
Yeah.
But we have enough new ribbons, I think, to almost fill another one. We just never put them up anymore.
So that's not all of them, huh?
No, it's not.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, only 5 of our distinguished club ones are up there.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
Can be this, whatever.
I just think it'd be more impressive when we get guests in here, when they see two flags and ribbons all over the place. You know, but it is, it's
true.
People say, wow, this must be a good club.
Because actually, last week, somebody was counting our ribbons
Yeah.
and comparing it to another club. And I just listened, because I didn't want to say, we actually have a whole bunch more.
Yeah, we should do, that's a good idea.
Or we could probably hang one up on the wall somewhere.
Or we could do like keep the first 10 years on the old banner and then start
Yeah.
filling it up with the new one. And display both.
Yeah,
Lake Mary displays both.
that is a good idea.
If you want, I'll look around for a pole
Do they
that
have to be on the
we can
flag?
put
What?
the other one, hang the other
They do.
one.
Do please tell me it's less than the $80 that TM Toastmasters charges for their stands.
No.
That was ridiculous.
You're talking about a stand?
A
Well,
stand.
like a pole, like almost like a flagpole, but it'll be,
Yeah, a stand.
Right,
Yeah,
stand,
stand.
okay.
Can
Well,
you
that's
buy
a good
it
idea.
from TI?
Yeah, for like $80.
Oh, okay.
It's ridiculous.
Might as well buy it
Yeah.
from Office Depot.
They have them at Office Depot?
I'm sure.
made of
I'm sure
gold.
We
too.
can look around.
Yeah, that's a good idea, I like that. Anyone else have any announcements or? All righty, for our awards. Drum roll, please. Our most decorated, Jonathan Dunn. Our next award is the Tim Chastain Award. stepped up and has dove right in and has taken on functionary roles and is really serious about improving her speaking skills and leadership skills. So she did an excellent job as timer today, and I felt like she deserved to be recognized. All right, next, Best Table Topics Award. Stephen Morgan.
Tron paid off.
Tron paid off.
This is fun.
We're looking for,
Next time.
we got elections coming up in a month.
That's okay. That's not that fun. All right, Best Evaluator. This should be no.
That was close, Jessica.
For next big surprise, Best Speaker goes to Julian Cotto. Alrighty, and I guess with that, our meeting is adjourned.
Yay. All right. Sticking it back.
It's so fun to be Tony.
Thank you, Julian. I timed it 2 times. I actually skipped 2 pages too.
It's like when you do artwork, you know, you can look and see more.
Okay.
If you didn't want to, you can still have a separate site where you artwork piece, but
Hey, if you need to collect money from some people.
background that there's more behind you.
Nice.
Over it, so that you have more room to talk about.
We don't have that many ribbons yet.
They said they're not on display.
Yeah, I know, but we have another banner to put them on.
Say it again?